What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Finally here in the home stretch, the College World Series preview. We are less than 24 hours away from our first game in Omaha. It's been an unbelievable season, but we're not done yet. I got my guy John Bollman here. We're ready to break down everything you need to know, everything that's going to help you get ready for this final next 10 days in order to have a very profitable College World Series. Johnny B, what's the deal, baby? How we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on, as always.
I think you're on mute, kid.
No, can you hear me?
Sorry, a bit of technical difficulties here. Is that me? Bad. I apologize. Is that me or is that? No, I can't. Turn up the volume, maybe. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Well, in the meantime, we got a little comment here from my guy Joseph Swingram. Yo, let's go. That's right.
Testing.
You have any idea how exciting this is? Like, listen, not for nothing.
Testing.
This is why we put in all the work in January and February and throughout the entire season, giving you lines and handicaps and giving potential previews of who might make it this far, throughout the course of the season, because this is very difficult. You have 300 Division I programs that could possibly make it here. So, the fact that the culmination is right around the corner, it's a relief. And it's exciting, but it's also a little bittersweet as well. Maybe it's just me. You know what? I'm going to ditch the headphones. I don't know what happened. Let's see if everybody can get me now. So I'm sure John will be coming back in a minute here. All right. Yeah, listen, maybe it's just my AirPods. That could be on me. Let's see if we get Johnny back here. Yo, what's up, John?
Yo, can you hear me now?
Yeah. You know what? It might have been my fault. Might have been my AirPods, so I apologize. Got Brandon Young with a big W, baby. Throw up the Jameis Winston W. I can hear you both.
There we go.
All right. So you know what? That might have been my fault. My apologies. I kind of fucked up the intro a little bit there. I got to do a little bit better here, and that's also why we're switching away from AirPods into real headphones. But anyway, bro, I really appreciate you taking the time here. It's been a fun last month of us doing shows together, and we're going to be able to have a few more. So, dog, talk to me. We're looking at the College World Series. What are you expecting? What's the trend that you might be looking at? Are there certain players that you're really excited to watch for this year's draft class or in a future year?
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for having me on, as always. Glad you guys can hear me now. I mean, a couple things that I'm looking forward to this World Series. One, we've got essentially ACC versus SEC, right? Like four teams. If you're four best, our four best, let's see who can do it. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. And then players to look out for. I think the favorite player I'm looking to see is Jack Caglianone. He's back at Omaha, and I think that he should be the number one overall pick. I would personally draft him number one overall. I don't know what else he can do to prove that. And I'm talking about even just as a hitter, like let alone as pitching. So I'm interested to see what he can do. He's the best player left in the nation.
Okay. So I have to address this here. It's not really College World Series related, but for most of the season, most of these mock drafts have consisted of largely Pisana going one. Why? I don't understand it. Now, Travis Pisana answered a big question I had coming to the year in terms of power. Like he had no home run numbers last year or his freshman year. This year he answered that. But at the same time, like I think he's a really good player. But how the fuck can you say Travis Pisana, 5'11" second baseman, is going to be going over two swinging dicks in Charlie Condon and Jack Caglianone, two guys who legitimately have 50 home run power upside in a single season? Like, I don't get it. I'm with you. I don't understand it. Personally, where I would want Pisana to go where I think he should probably go as number 4 to the A's. Get him with Jacob Wilson, solidify probably one of the best middle infield duos that we might see over the next decade. But, for my money, it should be Condon or Cags number 1, or Chase Burns if Cleveland wants to go the pitcher out. But ultimately, listen, if Bazzano went number 1, it's more annoying just the fact that he shouldn't be the number 1 pick, and I don't know why people keep harping on that. But it'd be nice to see Condon and Cags go to a better landing spot than Cleveland. But for me, I think the thing I'm curious to see is how does some of these underdogs come in and play? I feel like the pressure is on more teams like Tennessee and Texas A&M and North Carolina. I want to see how the Florida States and the Floridas and the NC States come out this weekend, because I do think the playing field is very even, where in years past we've had pretty big upsides. When you had a team playing Oral Roberts or you had LSU playing Florida, there was pretty big comparisons, right? But this year I feel like it's very even, despite the fact that we're getting some of these lines.
Yeah, I think every team in the tournament has the talent to win. And I think we'd seen that kind of reflected in the odds too. But if any team gets hot, if any team has the right players going, right pitchers going, then they can win it. And I mean, that's what you're going to get with 4 SEC and 4 ACC teams as well. So it's really it's up for grabs.
The other big thing, it's not really player related. It is element related. One thing to note is Charles Schwab's field is a pretty big field. And if you look at Tennessee, you look at North Carolina, you look at Virginia, you look at a couple other programs here, they play in small ballparks. Now, when you look at Charles Schwab Field, the dimensions are a lot bigger, but the worst part is you can get really aggressive wins as a hitter. For a pitcher, it could be good because a lot of times you can get that at your back and it could be in your favor. But now as a hitter, you're having to deal with a big ballpark and potentially big wind gusts coming in your face. It's already hard to hit home runs there. So now you really have to get into one in order to put it over the fence. And, listen, we see home runs are definitely capable of being hit in Omaha, but it's the difference where that routine fly ball that Tennessee might be able to hit in their own ballpark that's not going to travel out there. So I'm really interested to see, and depending on the time of day, when you're getting later in the afternoon and the sun's really aggressive for the batter's box, how does that affect some of these teams? So I really would like to see what kind of adjustments that they're going to make in order for them to try and navigate the situation a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Massive pitcher-friendly park, and it usually plays super small, so unders are usually wild.
All right. So we have our first game here. It's a game I'm looking forward to the most. The Tennessee Volunteers, -175 versus Florida State, +135 at 10.5. Now, obviously, we advise you to shop around, get the best of the number. But when I gave my first couple picks out 2 days ago, can you imagine FanDuel gave Florida State out at +200. What the fuck are you thinking? And it doesn't even matter if Jamie Arnold was pitching or not. But the fact that Jamie Arnold had a good chance to pitch before Link Jarrett even kind of announced it, even if you're getting +200 with Carson Dorsey, but the fact that you're getting +200 with Jamie Arnold, whether they win or not, it's an absurd line set. What are you doing? So obviously I gave it out. I played it 2-unit play just because it's just that ridiculous. And I think realistically, what happens is my favorite thing when these books start giving out their own price, regardless of what kind of action they've taken, and then they see what DraftKings puts out, they're like, oh fuck, oh we fucked up. So you know what? Let's go change it real quick. So Florida State was probably 140 or 160. It was a $50 difference. and everybody changes to what DraftKings had. But anyway, John, where do you see this first game going?
Yeah, so I mean, I think every game is going to be pretty good. I mean, this one's obviously the big question here is Tennessee and the number one overall seed. Jamie Arnold going is going to be massive for Florida State. I think people are also a little biased after seeing his past start against UConn and giving up a bunch of runs early, but there were a bunch of errors in that game as well that really killed him. And then you said all season long how Tennessee struggles against lefties, but I mean, that one's interesting for me because I'm not totally sure about like an over or under yet. I feel like it's going to be closer to an under. Both teams really rely on the home run and are very good at hitting home runs, and that's how they score. But like you said, Jamie Arnold going, I feel like there's not going to be as much offense, but I don't know. I'm still thinking about that one overall.
You know what? For me, I don't really care about the total. I think in theory, if you're Florida State and Florida State can score, you probably prefer this to be a little bit lower scoring because that means Jamie Arnold's doing his thing. Not many teams want to get into a shootout with the Volunteers. And the problem is you need Arnold to be strong early because if he's not, then you're starting to have to burn your bullpen. And, even if your bullpen does good, how does that leave you for game two? Now you're asking Carson Dorsey to continue what he's doing and go at least 6 innings, but probably 7. For me, man, listen, I've been riding Florida State since preseason. I've believed in this team, and I think it's their time. I feel like the pitching is a huge advantage here, and it solely rests on Jamie Arnold because the thing is, he's not only the second best lefty in the country, he's a top 5 pitcher, and he's a guy who has proven to be dominant and shut down elite opponents. He was great against UVA. He was great against Clemson. I recognize some of his dominant outings were against not so great teams, but listen, at the end of the day, this is the next Chris Sale, man. Jamie Arnold runs his fastball up to 97, 98 with that long, lanky lefty crossfire delivery. He has an elite slide piece that creates a lot of swing and misses, but he lands it consistently first strikes. He's always ahead in counts. And I think realistically, if he doesn't serve up these cock shot fastballs, he's going to be in good shape. That's where Tennessee strives. That's why Tennessee was able to jump all over Evansville. And we're not comparing Evansville to FSU, but they were teeing off because Evansville's pitchers were just throwing fastball down the middle. And they have guys that throw 90 miles an hour. They don't have 100-mile-an-hour guys. So, as long as Arnold keeps painting the corners and keeping the balls off balance, I think we're going to have really good business here. And, the other way around here, John, is Florida State can hit. They don't need to hit the home run. They can get a walk and a base hit and then a double and then another hit. They could string 4 or 5 hits together as well. So I think ultimately if FSU can jump out to a 3-0 lead after 2 innings, I feel really good. Give Arnold a little lead, and then by that time, Stamos is probably out and you're dealing with A.J. Causey. I like the opportunity there. And, it's still value at this number. I still think Florida State's getting too many. This is big, man. This is a big one. And this is Link Jarrett. He was the architect of Notre Dame that went into Knoxville 2 years ago when Tennessee was the number 1 seed and took him out for that Notre Dame team. So
that's a good point.
All right. So this is actually the first game of tomorrow's slate. It's UNC against Virginia. Money coming in on the Cavaliers. Do you see a real edge here?
Yeah, I like UNC here. I think I'm a big UNC believer. I added a future on them before this College World Series. They're going to be my last future. They seem like they have that aura this year. They have that superstar in Vance Honeycutt. They've got a good lineup top to bottom. They're a little young in terms of their pitching staff, but they have guys that they can rely on. Chase Sprague, Jason DeCaro as their starters. And you've got a Matt Matias, Matt Poston, and a Dalton Pence in their bullpen who, you can all rely on and all can go multiple innings. So they have that construction for me. And we saw them against LSU. They knocked off the reigning champs when it seemed like no one could do that. Like they were as hot as could be. We saw them beat two guys in West Virginia, two starters who had been red hot and nobody had been hitting for West Virginia. So I like UNC there. I'm also not as big of a believer in Evan Blanco, but it's more, and Virginia can hit, but it's more about Virginia's bullpen. Like they don't have any specific guy that they can just go to and totally rely on. So I think that's going to be the little bit of a difference in this game. And I think UNC is the best ACC team in the tournament left.
I'm taking UNC here as well. I think they have matchups across the board, advantages. I think Shea Sprague, is comparable to Evan Blanco. Both teams are solid, or both pitchers are solid. They're not great. They can keep their teams in the game. The offenses are kind of a wash for me. But the big advantage is the bullpen for UNC. They have 3 legitimate arms out of their bullpen, where I can't really name one for UVA. And UVA doesn't really have that superstar power this year. The Heels do. Our guy, Vance Honeycutt, who I wish he cleaned up that swing and miss. That swing and miss is bad, but he is one of the very few true 5-tool players in the country. If he didn't have as bad a swing and miss as he does, we're talking about him being maybe the best player in the country and being the number 1 pick this year. No question about it. He's got that potential. It's just the swing and miss holds him back. So regardless of whatever these people mock him at, whether it's 15 or 20 or 25, don't buy it. Vance Honeycutt is number 1 overall talent, but it is the swing and miss. And aside from that, he is the best, not the second best. He is the best defender in all of college, regardless of the position. There is not one person at any position that is a better defender than Vance Honeycutt. So that is why I think it's a huge advantage. It's a huge outfield. He is capable of patrolling that like the superstar that he is. And I think it's just a little bit of a too short line here. I do think UNC has relied a little bit on these heroics and other teams kind of coaching themselves out of the game at the wrong time. I don't know if that'll continue, but in terms of the on-paper matchup, Virginia doesn't impress me. I know they can hit, but their pitching isn't that good. They've kind of gotten a little bit lucky as well with like other teams just shooting themselves in the foot. But I do think UNC for the short price here is the side, definitely. Let's see, Sunday Puncher. He said UVA too many freshman bats. I agree, a little young. No Kyle Teal this year. No Jake Geloff. That's a thing. Kyle Hardy, any stock into the regular season series back in early April? Feel like 1,000 years ago. I got to be honest, Kyle. At my old age, I don't even remember what happened yesterday. I don't even remember yesterday. But
UNC UVA won 2 of the 3, but I believe it was at UVA, and 2 of the games totaled over 9. 2 of the games total, it was like 15 runs and 25 runs, and then the third was 9 runs. But like they said, that was in like the very beginning of April. And no, I don't read too much into that because it was at UVA and it was so early in the season.
Yeah. All right. Kentucky Wildcats favored over NC State because the games are Saturday. No totals are released yet. What's your initial thoughts here? Do you think Kentucky is going to win this game? Do you think they really have a shot to win it all? Or do you think NC State's going to get vengeance back from 2021?
I mean, I think this side of the bracket is more wide open than the other side, but I really like Kentucky in that game. NC State, they really don't have any pitching at all. They've got, one Sam Highfill can flash, but he hasn't been consistent at all this season. And then you've got Kentucky, and it's not like they have anybody in their pitching staff that's going to like overwhelm you, but they're a good team for Omaha. They get on base, they steal, they take the extra base. They don't necessarily rely on the home run. So and it's their first time there. It seems like they've got nothing to lose right now. So I think Kentucky is a good look, and I love them in that game. But I don't think NC State has the pitching staff to make a run there.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. I think NC State's pitching on paper, especially in the starting capacity, has not been good. but we know they have good starters. Their guys on paper look like shit, and they have some blow-up outings. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the home run. I think Neiman coming into last weekend series against Georgia allowed 19, and Highfield allowed 18. It's hard for us to find some of these individual stats, like which pitchers have allowed most home runs this year. I don't know that, but I would imagine those two are very high on the list. But the thing is they can pitch a lot better than what they have shown. And we saw Highfield was great at a wiffle ball park in Georgia on the first game. And, you know, the thing is the bullpen, I think, is in favor of NC State. The offense is in favor of NC State. They have guys that are stars that can carry this lineup, but they're deep. They don't rely on just 2 or 3 guys. And I feel like Kentucky's gotten, I wouldn't say lucky, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think them not having a superstar is going to hurt them. Because here's how Kentucky wins. Kentucky has an all-hands-on-deck approach where everybody knows their job and does their job. They're like a machine. But what happens when one cog stops working? The machine breaks. And I think that's what Kentucky is. And I think, you know, listen, their style of play in the sense that they do the little things right helps them take down more talented teams. I think that's 100% true. But I think NC State's a little too hot here. I think they are. I mean, you know, this is a Wolfpack team that got fucked in 2021, 1 game away from the finals because of a COVID thing. Like, fuck off, dude. And you think Elliot Avent is really sitting here not firing his guys up about what happened a few years ago? No, they're chomping at the bit, man. And listen, at the end of the day, Trey Poozer, he's solid, but this kid threw like 6 or 7 shutout innings against Oregon State, 1 hit. That's not happening again. I mean, Poozer's solid, don't get me wrong, but he's no elite arm. They don't have an elite bullpen. I just think with all the older guys NC State has, some of them were on that team, man. Like, this is go time. I think if NC State plays to their ceiling and plays to their potential, they outrank Kentucky in every category, and that includes coaching. And you're getting them at a dog price. My opinion. Also, time for Kentucky to die. Fuck Kentucky. I'm sick of Kentucky. And you know what? Listen, I bet against them all year. And, you know, I give them their flowers because I think what Nick Mingione's done is incredible. I really do. It's awesome. But at the end of the day, I don't think their style of play is, I guess, what's the word, John? What is it? Like consistently capable? I think the word would be an anomaly, how they win games. Like, I don't think that's something that can consistently be repeatable over the course of like Nick Mingione's career. He's going to have guys that can just take over. I don't think he has those guys. I think he has good talented players, but nothing like, for instance, a Florida with Caglianone or UNC with Honeycutt or A&M with a Jace Lavalette or Montgomery or Florida State with a Tibbs or Cam Smith. Sonny, bro, caught you on the show last night, 6 show. How'd you get hooked up with Billy McFarland? Oh, yeah, I did a podcast with the guy Billy McFarland, the guy from Fire Festival, the Netflix documentary. It was crazy, actually. My guy Sweets hit me up like last week. He's like, yo, I'm getting Billy McFarland, the Fire Festival guy, on a podcast. We're talking college baseball, which I'm like, I don't, you know, yeah. He's like, do you want to be on? I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, dude, all right. Like, I want to talk to him. Like, he's actually over from by my way. So it's pretty cool. So hopefully we get to talking. And I really want to talk a little bit more about Fire Festival. It was pretty cool. It's like, I told some people at work, I was like, yo, like, remember the guy from Fire Festival? I'm doing a podcast one time. Well, what the fuck? That's so random. That was fun, though. I had a good time. All right. Last game 1 here. A&M laying almost $2 against the Florida Gators. John. It's got to be Florida all the way, kid. I can't get behind A&M anymore. I can't get behind them at this price. I think they're 2 teams trending in opposite directions. Kick me off here.
Yeah, I think I'm with you here. I think this is going to be a really good game. I believe it was Texas A&M went to Florida earlier this season. I don't think they'd lost a series yet all season, and they went to Florida and they lost 2 of 3, and that's when Florida wasn't even playing great. Florida's playing really well now. Liam Peterson's pitching very well. I mean, don't let his stats fool you. He's been on fire lately. And then you go to Cags pitching as well, and then they've got Brandon Neely has returned to his former self, and he can go 4 or 5 innings and shut a game down for you, which is extremely valuable in a College World Series. And Texas A&M on the other side, they're playing well, but Braden Montgomery just got injured. He's out for the entire season. Sadao just got injured, their second starter. He's out for the entire season as well. So, I mean, maybe they can overcome some of these injuries, but I don't think they have the depth to get through the losers bracket if they do. And Florida's getting hot at the right time. They've always been talented enough. They just haven't, I guess, really put it together. And it seems like they're kind of putting it together. So I like the value in Florida there. But I think that's going to be a huge game.
I like Florida. I took a Florida to win the College World Series ticket right before the regional started, because I was like, listen, they're going to pull this 2022 Ole Miss bullshit, be the last team in, and make a run. And, I never complained about them not deserving to get in because they weren't talented. It's just off the resume, off merit. I personally didn't think they deserved it. And I was like, I have to grab it because I have a feeling like this is the team that they're going to just be like, all right, you know what? Now we're going to go on a run. And I grabbed them at 70-1. I just re-upped on them the other day. And here's the thing. When you look at Florida, they've been playing with their backs against the wall for 2 months. They're playing hot baseball. They just went into Clemson. It took 2 out of 3. They pissed away the lead because they let fucking Cam Canarella act like he's fucking Superman. And you know what? They're like, we're not giving this game away. We're taking this one. And that's exactly what they did in 13 innings. They took it. So now they're going to get to Texas A&M team, which, let's be honest, Ryan Prager, who has been nails for most of the year, he's not looked the same in the last few starts. He's not looked that great. And the fact is now their bullpen all year has been relying on like 2 guys. It's been Aschenbeck, who's been a stud. Cortez is a stud, but he's also a guy that you never know, man. He could get wild and he could start losing the strike zone. Rudis is okay. And, I just don't know if I buy A&M, especially now that Braden Montgomery's gone. It took the wind out of their sails. That's a huge piece in their lineup that's missing. And, yeah, you have Lavalette, who's probably the number 1 pick next year. You have Gravin Grahovec, who's a top 10 pick in 2026. But, missing Montgomery, who's a top 5 pick this year, that's a big if. And let me tell you something. And I tweeted this during the game last weekend. Had A&M lost that game against Oregon, that game 2, which they should have, I had Oregon winning game 3. It took Oregon's pitcher Brock Moore to just continue to throw 4 or 5 pitch walks with the bases loaded, hit batters like 3 in a row, and the coach is leaving him in there. Like, what are you doing? You have a 5-run lead, and all of a sudden, the kid leaves the game. It's a tie game. I didn't know what was going on. So, Oregon really gave them that game. And I don't buy A&M right now, man. I think especially in terms of, making a run in the College World Series, this is a team now that I've been talking about it for a while. Their number 2 and 3 starters have been a huge problem. Like Tanner Jones and Lampkin were solid to start the year, but they started unraveling middle of the way. And they get Shane Sadeo from the bullpen, slot him into the rotation, and he's done now. He has a UCL problem. But I will say, historically, the last couple of years, whenever A&M seems to be out of arms, they'll just get this shove piece from whoever. And maybe this year, Lampkin. I remember Nathan Detmer did it 2 years ago. Micah Dallas did it 2 years ago. Troy Wansing and Lampkin did it last year. Maybe Lampkin does it this year, but I just don't know, man. I think A&M's depth is running thin. And like Arkansas, if Prager has a bad game against the Gators, I don't know if they're going to be able to recover. I think that's a real possibility. A lot of pressures on him to be awesome. Another thing, by the way, real quick, Liam Peterson, he's had a rough year this year, like Thatcher Hurd did last year. But now, when it's go time and it's crunch time and things are on the line, this kid's been pitching a lot better like Hurd did last year. So maybe he kind of hones in a little Thatcher Hurd magic from last year and propels them to make that run. And yeah, Neely's been awesome, bro. Neely's been the glue. And that Sunday punt, the Billy special, yeah, he got that from me, by the way. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so let's talk real quick about bracket 1. It's Tennessee, UNC, UVA, Florida State. Where do you see the best bang for your buck? Who do you see the winner out here?
So my last 2 futures I've got left are Tennessee and UNC. I think those are the 2 best teams on that side of the bracket. I think one of those teams is going to come out. So I'm going to stick with one of those 2 teams. I just don't think UVA has the pitching. And Florida State, I don't think they have the pitching depth, I should say. After Arnold, I mean, Dorsey, they've got a couple relievers, but I just don't think that they have the pitching depth to get through it.
I'm gonna pretend that you just said that. I like Florida State, and it's not just because of the value; it's because I actually picked them. I've been riding this ticket. I have a huge Florida State ticket. I think when you look at it realistically, Virginia does not. My thing is, if Virginia loses game 1, they don't have the pitching depth. Even if they win, I don't think they have the starting depth. Like Jay Wolffork he's not a starter. I mean, he's not gonna do what he did against Mississippi State. That's how bad Mississippi State is. Let fucking Jay Wolffork come in for 8 innings of 2-run ball. Like when was the last time that happened? Little League. They don't have the depth on the mound. They were a better team last year, actually. UNC is dangerous. If UNC wins, they throw DeCaro second game. UNC scares me a little bit. But I have Florida State beating Tennessee. That was my thing. So Florida State beats Tennessee game 1 with Jamie Arnold on the mound. I think UNC is going to win. Then game 2 in the 1-0 bracket, if we handicap this way, would be Carson Dorsey against Jason DeCaro. I have Florida State winning that game because I don't think there's not anything special about Jason DeCaro. I think depending on what happens with game 1, obviously I would want UNC UVA to be a slugfest where like both pitchers get lit up early and then the bullpens have to just like grind it out. I think UNC has more depth in the arms, but I do feel like Florida State would be able to pull that one out because at the end of the day, UNC's offense has been not great. They've had a couple explosive innings, but really it's just these home runs by Vance Honeycutt that's kind of saved them. Florida State's top to bottom has been a lot more productive. It's just UNC's has been coming up at the 11th hour to make it look like they've been that good. But they've been silenced for most of the regionals and super regionals. Ultimately, I think what's going to happen here is Florida State's going to win game 1, win game 2, and then Tennessee's going to come out of the losers bracket, take out Virginia, and then would take out UNC and then play Florida State. I think that's how I have it, and I have Florida State winning that game. I have Florida State winning. I think they find a way. I think they have to come out of the winners bracket, though, like you said. Jamie Arnold's got to get them a W tomorrow, get 1-0, and then Dorsey's got to get them 2-0. They cannot come out of the losers bracket because I don't think they have legitimate 4 starters. Like Cam Leiter, maybe if he was healthy. I don't know what is going on with Cam Leiter. I don't even know if we're going to see him. Big if. But this is hard, man. They got to get – if they can go 2-0 and then just kind of find a way to close out one more game, I think they're okay. And I actually got that at 6-1. All right, bracket 2. I'll start this. I like Florida. Florida was 6-1 before. I think they take out A&M. And regardless of whoever wins between Kentucky and NC State, I think, Florida's going to take out the winner because then Cags would get the winner of that game in game 2. And while Cags has been struggling a little bit on the mound, I do think the offense is going to be enough to support because if you look at who NC State or Kentucky would be throwing, it's nothing special. Kentucky would likely be throwing Dom Neiman or Mason Moore, both of whom have not been that good. NC State, if they throw Highfill in game one, would be throwing – they probably wouldn't throw Whitaker because Whitaker threw on Whitaker threw on Monday. So maybe Whitaker would be eligible as well as Dom Fritman or whatever. Yeah, Fritman. But I think Florida's got the edge there. And let me tell you something. I think NC State's too big of a number. I would right? Don't you think NC State's too big of a number at plus 550, especially when they're only plus 114?
I don't think so. I'm not as big of a believer in NC State. I just don't think they have the pitching.
Why?
Because I just don't think they have the pitching. Even like Highfill can have good games, but after that, like you said, Dom Furton, the guy who started game 2 against Georgia, gave up. Like he's had, I don't know the walk number, but he's been terrible with walks. And like you said, he's given up like 20 home runs on the year and got rocked against Georgia in game 2. And they don't really have any bullpen pieces that they can rely on. That is like their Brandon Neely or their Chris Cortez, or
their Ashback. What do you mean?
Who?
Yeah, they do. They have Derek Smith. They have the kid Duden, and they have that the kid Cooper. What the fuck's his name? The kid Cooper something. They have three guys that they can really rely on out of the pen. And like honestly, Whitaker has been decent lately. I mean, his pitch count got up there a little bit against Georgia, but he was 4 1/3, 2 earned, 7 Ks, 1 walk. I mean, and before that against JMU, 6 innings, 2 runs. I don't know, man. I think it's a little long. I don't really know what's so special about Kentucky. I don't really think Trey Boozer is that good. Like
I don't think there's anything special about Kentucky. I think it's going to be whoever wins the Florida Texas A&M game is going to be the team that comes out of this side of the bracket. I just think those teams are playing too good right now. A&M they've been playing really well. Like they've gone down in their couple of games. They've been hitting, but like we mentioned Sadao. I'm not totally sure how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But Braden Montgomery also out. We have no idea how they're going to respond to that. But I will also say, I think whoever goes 2-0 on each side of the bracket is going to end up making College World Series final. I think that's just the way that the season has gone. Like, I don't think we're going to have any team come all the way around the back and come out of the loser's bracket. I think whoever goes 2-0 is going to win. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, is looking for which teams I think will go 2-0.
But play this scenario out with me real quick. Say NC State wins game 1, right? They're plus 550 right now to win out of that bracket. And let's just say, for instance, Texas A&M beat Florida, right? Then A&M's looking at maybe throwing Tanner Jones or Justin Lampkin or going Brad Rudis as an opener. They have nothing that special against NC State's lineup that's capable. They have dogs in that lineup. And then, maybe in the game 2, then you have NC State throwing Logan Whitaker, who's been pretty solid. Without Montgomery, I don't really know. Jace Lavalette hasn't been anything special this series. Like, Rehovec's pretty solid. And then it's just a bunch of guys that, really look to hit home runs. That's where the bread and butter is. A&M really got lucky to get away with that game, too. The score is going to tell you a different story, but they were losing by 5 before that 7th inning rally. They were getting dominated. So I think really that plus 550, I probably wouldn't even bet. If you really think like NC State has a shot here, I would just bet that, because at the end of the day, if they win game 1, they're going to have a really good shot to win game 2, even if Cags is throwing, because no team that goes against them in game 2 is going to have really a big pitching advantage. They're just not. There's not going to be a big pitching advantage one way or the other. And I think when you're looking at offense, their offense right now can hang with anybody. They have a legitimate top 5 in that lineup. They have Serrano, they have Pennington, they have Makarevich, they have Cozart. Cozart's going to be a first rounder this year. And they have other ancillary guys that just make it happen. I don't know, man. I think NC State's being a little underrated. They don't have the flash. They don't have the pizzazz. But, bro, this team is legit, bro. Their whole second half of the schedule this year, they didn't lose a series. They went up against FSU. They went up against Wake. They went up against Clemson. They went up against UVA. They had to play a really tough schedule, and they fucking swept through it. I think you're underrating NC State, man. I really do. And like maybe they go flat against Kentucky, but I think they're gonna be a tough out. I don't think they're gonna be a pushover.
I said I think this bracket is wide open. I do think anyone can get through it, but I also think that whoever wins A&M Florida is my favorite. I think they're gonna get through. But I also didn't make any futures on this side of the bracket for a reason. Like, I legitimately think any team can come out with it.
I think if A&M loses their first game, they're done. Even if they win their first game, I just don't think they have enough pitching depth. Like I said, A&M just finds a way the past years to get these ridiculous pitching performances from guys who have done nothing. Maybe it's Lampkin. Maybe it's Tanner Jones. Who the fuck knows? It's happened before. All right. College World Series prediction time. Who we got? These are the odds. Give me the matchup, bracket versus bracket, and who wins.
Yeah, I mean, I already said my two futures that I have still are Tennessee and UNC, and those are my two favorites. Obviously, they're on the same side of the bracket, though, so it's impossible for them to match up. But I think if I were to go value on the other side, I would go Florida. So I think I would end up UNC Florida. Maybe that would be a good look, but like I said, man, I truly think that any of these teams can just get hot right now. And so I think UNC and Florida have the teams with the best value right now. But I think Tennessee is the most complete team. I just don't know if they'll make it, to the finals and win. So I'm going to go with UNC and Florida here. So
Florida and UNC met in the finals. That's 24-1 on FanDuel right now. Not bad. I think it's solid. I think it's possible. I think anything's possible. For me, I'm going to go Florida State over Florida. I think Kevin O'Sullivan's team gets heartbroken 2 years in a row. I have separate tickets on both of these. These are my last two tickets. And I actually parlayed them to win both of their brackets on Bet Rivers. I think, like we talked about, that other side of the bracket 2 where Florida's on, that is up for grabs. I think they're the most talented team. I think they're playing the hottest baseball. So I think that's why there's a really good shot for them to win. And then, I got to ride with my guns here. Florida State has been the team that I've been on all year. It's Mississippi State and Florida State is my two biggest single team futures, and for good reason. Tennessee is going to be a tough out, of course. That's what we know. But I think when you have Jamie Arnold, you always have a chance. So if they could get through them, I still feel very confident. And I do think UNC is going to be very difficult. I think there's that magic in them where, at the final moment, every little thing has gone their way. It's just not destiny, but it's kind of just been like that for them this year. But ultimately, I do think FSU is going to beat Florida. I think we're going to see a magical College World Series. FSU lost their great late head coach, Mike Martin. They're going to do it one time for him. It's really been special. And the thing I think that's not being talked about enough is Link Jarrett and the job he did. This is a guy that is a great baseball mind. This is a guy that was the architect in 2022 at Notre Dame when he went into Knoxville and took out the Volunteers. I just feel like a lot of his just impact on the team has gone a little bit unnoticed in terms of the handicap. And I don't know, man. I think something's going on with Florida State in a good way. And I want to ride that till the end. But all right. We really appreciate it. John, did you have any final thoughts before we let the people go?
I don't think so. I'm just excited for the baseball to get going. This is one of the best weeks of the year.
I'm excited, man. Really, I truly am. Time to clear the schedule. I'm going to finish the rest of my pizza, rewatch Jersey Shore, continue that. I'm on season 3. I rewatch it every summer. It's kind of my thing before I go down the shore. Still Guide at heart, so got to continue that tradition. But everybody, I really appreciate you tuning in with us all season. This is not the last Breaking Bet podcast. We will have one I'm thinking potentially maybe to do something on Sunday night. It is Father's Day. So I will keep you posted. Keep a lookout on my Twitter at _JohnnyVTV to see, when exactly we can do another show. But regardless, I will be doing one next week. Hopefully, John, you are available to join. And, happy Father's Day to all the great papas out there. We love you. And don't forget to tell any father in your life that you love them. And thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Best of luck these next few days. Let's go Florida State, baby. Let's do it for Johnny V one time. I've been heartbroken enough over the last couple of years. Wake Forest fucked me last year. Circus Survivor, I was one of the final 10. Russell Wilson, that scumbag in Denver, they fucked me. Mississippi State decided to stop playing baseball in a great time. So, Florida State, you have a chance to do it for me one time. Let's remember that. All right, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.